Good morning, dear students, and welcome to the second part of our chapter Life Processes in Living Organisms. In the first part, we saw how food, nutrition, and water is transported to the different parts of plants through specialized tissues, xylem and phloem. We understood that xylem is basically used for the transportation of water, and phloem is basically used for the transportation of food materials and nutritions in plants. Now we would continue with this chapter, and we now understand the process of excretion in living organisms. First, let us understand what happens when it comes with the process of excretion in plants. Now, we have seen plants around us. We know that plants can shed their leaves, means their leaves can become brown or they can become yellow and they fall off in a certain season. This usually happens in the autumn season when plants or trees start shedding their leaves. Now, this happens because there are excessive waste materials which are present, or you can say which are stored inside the leaves. And when the tree or when the plant wants to get rid of those toxic materials, then all that the plant has to do is it has to shed its leaves. It has to throw away those leaves. So that's why we see that in a certain season, for example in the autumn season, we see that the plant loses a maximum of its leaves, or it starts shedding its leaves. Now this is a process of excretion. Plants do not have special organs for the process of excretion, for the process of removal of toxic materials which are present inside it. Okay, so it does the process of excretion with the help of the different parts of its organization. So it can use the stem, it can use the fruit, it can use the flowers, it can use the leaf, or it can use the bark of the stem for the process of excretion. So all these things can break off and fall off from the plant, which helps in the removal of these waste materials from the plant. Now, if you have observed plants closely around you, you must have seen a rubber plant which gives rubber. In this first diagram over here, if you see, there is a rubber plant, a rubber tree in fact, wherein cuts have been made and the white substance comes out from it. Okay, this is nothing but a gum. So this gum is a waste product for the plant or for the tree. It does not have any use for the tree. Okay, so when cuts are made in the stem or in the bark of a rubber plant, then this white substance starts flowing out. Then in the second picture, the purple plant, the purple flowers that you see, you must have seen it in your villages. This is a calotropis plant. If you have ever broken the leaves of that plant, or if you have plucked the flowers of that plant, you will see a milky white substance which is released by the plant. You must have even heard your parents or your elders telling you that don't put that milky substance into your eyes because it can cause irritation of the eyes. So this milky substance which is released by the calotropis plant is a waste product of the plant. So this is how it releases it. Then in that third picture over there, many of you all, especially Maharashtrians, must have made this particular dish in your house, the aloo vadi. This is a leaf of the aloo vadi. You must have noticed, or the girls must have seen their mothers washing the leaves of the aloo vadi very nicely, and then those leaves are boiled or steamed, and after that you have the process of applying the besan ka coat on top of the leaves, and then it is again steamed or it is fried. So there is a certain process which goes into the making of this aloo vadi. So when this aloo vadi leaves, if you have ever tasted those leaves, or if you have ever tried to eat those leaves raw, what will happen is that you get a itchy, a scratchy sensation in your throat. That is because there are certain crystals of oxalic acid which are present in those leaves. This is a waste product which is produced by the plant. So the alocasia leaf has these crystals of oxalic acid, which is a waste product for the plant, and it gets stored in the leaves, and when the leaves are rotten or when they are broken away from the plant, that is how it is released from the plant. Then you must have seen mango trees, mainly in your villages, old mango trees. You must have seen a golden color liquid which comes out from the stem or from the bark of those mango trees. Now this particular substance is called as a resin. Okay, so this is a waste product which is generated in trees like a mango tree. Then in a pineapple also, if you have eaten a pineapple, then if you eat the central part of the pineapple, when you slice a pineapple into circles, you will see a round portion of the pineapple which we usually do not eat. Okay, that is thrown out. If you happen to eat it, you will find a lot of scratchiness, itchiness in your throat. So that is also having certain scratchy crystals which are present in it, which is a waste product of the pineapple. So these waste products, it might be waste product for the plant, but there are certain uses that we have for the certain waste products, like for example the latex or the gum which is released from the rubber plant is used for making a lot of useful products by human beings. Also the resin which is released from the bark of some plants, that is also used for a number of products, useful products which are made by human beings. So although those things are excretion products in plants, they can be useful by human beings. Next, let us understand excretion in human beings. Now, you must have already learned in your previous class the process of digestion, where you know that towards the end of the process of digestion, the food waste material, after all the nutrition and water has been sucked out of the food materials, then there are certain waste products which are formed, and that is thrown out of the body in the form of excreta. What about the waste liquid which is formed inside the body? That is thrown out of the body in the form of urine. Now there is a special organ system which is in place for the process of excretion of urine, and that is the excretory system, and the main organ of this is the kidney. So we will have a look at the excretory system and the different parts of the kidney. So if you have a look at this diagram, this is the diagram of the human excretory system. It consists of two pairs of kidneys. The bean shaped structures that you see in this diagram, that are your kidneys. You have a right kidney and a left kidney. There are a pair of ureters. Then in the center you see the urinary bladder and the urethra. The urine is formed by the kidneys by separating the waste and the unwanted excessive substances from the blood, and then the urine is formed, and the urine is then stored inside the bladder. When the bladder gets full, we get the sensation of urination, of releasing the urine from the body, and then we visit the washroom and we pass the urine out of the body. That is how the urine is thrown out of the body. It is a waste product of the body which is thrown out from the body. Now if you have a look at this slide is a part of the kidney. This is the transverse section of the kidney. Now, your kidney is like a bean shaped structure. It looks like a bean shaped structure. Okay. Towards the top, you see something which is called as the renal capsule, and towards the bottom, you see something which is called as the renal calyx. So, the capsule and the calyx are the two important parts of the kidney. The calyx is what forms the ureter. Okay, and you can see in this diagram there is the cortex and the renal artery and the renal vein. The renal artery is what carries the waste products. It's what carries the impure blood into the kidney, and the renal vein is what carries the purified blood away from the kidney. Okay, so the kidney does the work of filtering the blood and removing all the waste substances from the blood, and then the purified blood is then sent out through the renal vein. Okay, and the waste product which is separated from the blood, it gets absorbed by the blood, it gets absorbed by the kidney through the different parts of the kidney, and it is the urine which is formed, and that urine is then passed out of the kidney through the organ which is the urethra. Now, if you have a look at this next diagram, this diagram is of a nephron. Now, inside the kidney, there are a number of small structures which are called as nephrons. And these nephrons are responsible for cleaning up the blood and removing the waste products from the blood. Now, each nephron, it has a cup-like structure which is called as the Bowman's capsule. Okay, and there is a network of capillaries which is called as the glomerulus. Now, the urea which is produced in the liver comes into the blood. The liver produces urea. When the urea containing blood, when it comes into the glomerulus, it gets filtered through the capillary action, and the urea and other substances get separated from the blood. The water molecules and the smaller molecules of other substances, they can pass through the capsule, or they can pass through the Bowman's capsule. And the excessive waste material which gets accumulated inside this Bowman's capsule, that passes out through a tube of the nephron. And these nephrons are then, the tubes of the nephrons are then connected to the ureter, and the ureter is connected to the urinary bladder where the urine gets stored. Okay, and as I said before, when the urinary bladder is full, we get the sensation of urination, and then we have to visit the washroom to release all the urine which is present inside the urinary bladder. Now, sometimes you must have heard of people undergoing dialysis. Now, what is dialysis? Now, sometimes in some people, the kidneys do not work correctly. It can be due to some kind of a disease, or some kind of an infection, or maybe some kind of an injury, or in case if there is some kind of a damage to the blood supply. So because of all this, the kidneys might not work correctly. And if the kidneys do not work correctly, it means that the harmful substances from the blood cannot get separated, because that is the main job of the kidney. It removes the harmful substances from the blood and purifies the blood. But if the kidney is not able to do that job, it means that the harmful substances are still present in the blood, and that blood will keep moving around in the whole body, and what will happen is that all these poisonous toxic substances will be passed on to every part of the body, and it can eventually lead to the death of that particular person. Okay, so the kidneys are one of the most important organs of your human body. If there is anything which happens to the kidneys, it can bring about the death of that particular person. Okay, so it is said that if the kidneys fail, the nitrogenous waste are separated from the body by another machine. Okay, in case of any person who is not having a functional kidney, if there is any damage to the kidney, if the kidney is not working correctly, then how can we separate the toxic substances from the blood? This is done by a process which is called as dialysis. The human body there is connected to a machine which is called as a dialysis machine, and that machine does the work of separating the toxic substances from the blood. Okay, the machine is connected to the hands of that person, to the veins of that person, and the blood is flowing through the machine. The machine does the work of removing the harmful substances from the blood, and the purified blood is then put back into that human body. So this particular machine is called as a dialysis machine, and the process is called as dialysis. Okay, so the process of separating the nitrogenous waste from the blood with the help of a dialysis machine is called as dialysis. Now let us understand the next process which happens in all living organisms, that is called as coordination. Now what exactly do you understand by the term coordination? For example, in this picture I have put up a picture of dahi handi, wherein you have a number of these small children who are forming the human pyramid and are climbing one on top of the other, and then you have finally one person right on the top who breaks the dahi handi. Okay, but do you think those boys or those girls who must have maybe taken part in such an activity during Holi, you know that this is not a very easy job. You require a lot of practice, you require a lot of coordination. All the people who are taking part in this particular activity have to be healthy, they have to be very well maintained, and they have to be strong. They have to be able to take the weight of each other, and they have to be having a proper coordination between each other, so that the final job of breaking the dahi handi by the person who is climbing right on the top takes place. So a proper coordination is required. In the same way, for example, in the human body, we have a number of different organs in the body, different types of processes which are taking place in the body. For example, nutrition, digestion is taking place, circulation, transportation of blood is taking place, the process of respiration, breathing is going on, the process of excretion, the process of reproduction, the process of metabolism. All these different things are happening in the human body at any given time. Okay, but for these processes to be taking place in the human body, all these different organs which are part of these processes have to be healthy and have to be working with each other. Okay, it cannot happen that one day the heart just gets up and says that, okay boss, I don't want to do the job of pumping the blood today, I want to take holiday. Okay, he cannot tell the lungs that you do the work of pumping the blood. It cannot happen. Each and every organ has its own duty and it has to do it. And all the organs have to work with each other in proper coordination, in proper management with each other, so that the human body is functioning normally and the human body remains healthy. This relationship which all the different organs have with each other is called as coordination. Now this word coordination has a certain scientific name which is given to it. The scientific name is homeostasis. Okay, homeostasis. it is the proper coordination between the various systems of an organism, and it helps to maintain a state of equilibrium, which is called as homeostasis, and this is required for the proper efficiency or for the optimal efficiency of the body. So all the different systems which are present in the living organism, be it plants or be it human beings or be it animals or blood or any birds, there is a proper coordination between all the different systems of the organism, and there is a state of equilibrium which is maintained, which means that all the different organs are equally functioning with the help of each other. So this particular state is called as homeostasis, and this is very much required for the proper functioning of the body of that particular organism. Now we move on to the next part of the chapter, which is coordination in plants. Now in plants, we do not see movement in plants wherein the plants are moving from one place to another. Okay, we cannot see plants uprooting itself from one place and then suddenly moving on to a different place and putting the roots over there and living there. Okay, this does not happen with plants. But in plants, movements take place in a different manner. Okay, we see that movement, but we do not understand that it is actually movement which is displayed by plants. So we will study that particular thing today. This movement or this movement in plants happens in the form of growth. Okay, the plant will start growing in a different manner. So that is how plants show movement. Okay, so the movement or the growth of any part of a plant in response to an external stimuli is called as tropism or tropical movement. So whenever the plant starts growing in a different manner because of certain things happening in the environment, that is called as tropism or it is called as tropical movement. The first tropism that we will be looking at is phototropism. Now what do you understand by phototropism? The word photo means light. Okay, the word photon means light. If you have plants growing in your house, if you have a certain plant which is growing in a shade, you will see that after a few days, the plant will start growing in the direction of the light. For example, in this particular picture, you see this pot has been placed in a shady place which is a little away from the window. But what is happening is that all the stem of the plant are starting to grow towards the direction of the window. The stem is not growing straight at a 90 degrees angle, but there is a certain angle which is formed by the stem and it is growing towards the window. Why it is growing towards the window? Because it is receiving sunlight from the window. So that is why the plant is trying to grow in the direction of the light. So this particular movement which is shown by the plant is called as phototropism. The next type of movement is called as gravitropism or geotropism. Now what happens in this is that your roots, when we put a seed into the ground, the roots will always grow in the downwards direction. So it is following the direction of gravity. The gravity is the direction in which the earth is pulling any object towards itself. So the roots will always grow in the direction of the gravity in the downwards direction. But if you look at the stem of the plant will not grow in the downwards direction. It will always grow in the upwards direction. Okay. So this particular movement wherein the stem grows towards gravity and the stem is not moving towards gravity, it is moving away from gravity. This particular type of movement which is shown by plants is called as geotropism or it is called as gravitropism. The next type of movement that we see is called as hydrotropism. From the word hydro, you understand water. So what do we understand by hydrotropism? If you look at this slide, there are two parts. In the first part of the slide, you see that the soil is moist, means the soil is nice and moist and wet. So the roots are growing straight because there is water available, enough water is available for the roots to grow. But in the second part of the picture, you see that the soil is dry and there is water which is there underground. So what will happen is that the roots will start growing towards the direction of the water. The roots are not growing straight in that second picture. The roots are moving towards the direction of the water. Okay, so when we have certain parts of the plant moving towards water, that type of movement is called as hydrotropism. Now the next type of movement is called as thigmotropism. Now if you all have seen certain vegetable plants, you must have seen that they form tendrils, long wiry structures, and these structures which will catch hold of walls, or it will catch hold of the stem of other plants, or so these wiry structure takes the help of some support so that the plants can grow nicely. Okay, or you must have seen the stem of certain plants which will itself roll around maybe a pole or the stem of other leaves and take support for the plant and grow. Okay, so this particular type of movement is called as thigmotropism, wherein certain structure of the plant, you might have tendrils or you might have the stem itself which is taking the support of something else so that it can grow properly. So this is called as thigmotropism. The next type of movement is called as chemotropism. Now when it says chemo, it means chemicals. So this means movement which is present in plants based on certain chemicals produced in the plants. Now for example, during the process of pollination, when the pollen grains form on the stigma, there are certain chemicals which are generated by the ovary, due to which the pollen grain starts growing and it forms a pollen tube. So this particular movement which happens is called as chemotropism. Okay, and also in some plants, as long as there is enough water available, that plant will grow nicely. But when there might not be enough water available, there is a certain acid which is generated in some plants, is called as abscisic acid. What will happen when this acid gets generated in those plants? The leaves will start wilting, it will shrink, and it will look like the plant has died. The plant will become dormant. But in reality, the plant is not dead. It is just gone into a dormancy. It has gone into an inactive state, wherein it is, you can say, it is in a resting phase. After when water will be easily available to that plant, again that plant will start growing normally. So when the plants show certain movements with response to certain acids or certain chemicals which are generated in it, this type of movement is called as chemotropism. Apart from abscisic acid, you have different other kind of acids or different kinds of chemicals which are also present in plants. Auxins, gibberellin, cytokinins, all these are required for the growth of the plants. The last type of movement that we are going to discuss today is called as thermotropism. Now what do you understand by thermo? Thermo means heat. We have already gone through the summer season, and Now we are entering the cold season, the winter season. So you must have seen that some plants which are growing very nicely in the hot season, they might show a different type of growth in cold season. They might not grow too much, they might not give too much leaves, they might start wilting, or they might go into a complete dormancy state during the winter season. So this type of movement or this type of growth which is shown by the plant in hot season and cold season, there is difference in growth. So this type of movement or growth is called as thermotropism. So with this, dear students, we will finish off today's lecture, and we will continue in the next lecture with the remaining part of the chapter. So till then, dear students, stay safe, stay happy. Bye.